Hello and welcome to Rathod Science Academy. Today in this session we are going to see very important articles that appear in our today's Indian newspaper. So let's get started with our discussion. First of all, I'll let you know the topics of the day, and later on we are going to analyze topics, and at last I'll be giving you prelims practice questions as well. Okay, let us see the topics of the day. First one is Trump blasts allies, tells them get your own oil. So this article is talking about US relations with other countries. So here Trump verbally said some statements related to allies, that is nothing but the friendly nations of US, that yes, US was not got any help from this NATO countries. So now US said that yes, wherever you want to get the oil, go and get the oil. Okay, so this topic is important from your GS paper 2 under international relations. And next topic is most parts of India to see more heat wave days, says IMD. So we are going to have summer season soon, right? So in that summer season, now India is going to experience more and more heat waves. So here you have to see what is that heat waves and what is IMD. On these two areas, you may get a prelims based question. And this is important from your geography from GS paper 1. And next topic, it is about outer space treaty. So here you have to see what are the norms in that treaty and what are the achievements that we did so far. Everything related to that treaty will be very important from your science and technology from GS paper 3. And next is there is one scheme of Election Commission of India, that is sweep. So there is one image which is there in our today's newspaper which is representing this sweep program. So we have to see what is that. And next topic is unexpected surge. The index of industrial production diverges from previous data. So in yesterday's class we discussed about this index of industrial production. There is one editorial related to that. We are going to see that. And next topic is counting people is not counting disaster risk. You know that recently 16th Finance Commission came up with recommendations. So in that recommendations, they allotted certain amount of fund for this disaster management as well. So this article is saying that that is not enough. So it is talking about criticism related to that disaster management related funds which is allocated by FC. And this topic is important from GS paper 3 disaster management, and even from economy point of view from GS paper 3 this article is important. So all these are the topics now we are going to discuss in this class. Come on, read out the title is Trump blast allies, tells them get your own oil. Okay, again there is one statement made by Trump which is in news, and on this you may expect a question. Because of this I took this article for discussion. So this article is saying that US President Donald Trump accuses his NATO partners of not being there for America during the conflict with Iran. That means the member countries of NATO didn't supported US in this US-Iran conflict. So now here Trump is saying that countries that they can either buy fuel from US or they can go to Strait of Hormuz to pick up oil. So if they have to go to the Strait of Hormuz, what they have to do, they have to keep extra British troops, and even they need to provide air defense because there is no security in this Strait of Hormuz region for this US related allies ships also. Actually we discussed about this UNCLOS, right, recently. What is this UNCLOS? United Nations Convention of Law of Seas. According to this UNCLOS, we can know what is the jurisdiction of that country in maritime arena. We discussed that, right? So according to this UNCLOS, if there is a coastal country, we will be saying high tide area and low tide area. That means normally in the high tide where the water will come, and during the low tide where the water will come. So we will be deciding one baseline based on that high tide and low tide area, and below this baseline whatever the water is there, that is called as internal waters. And from this baseline till how many nautical miles? 12 nautical miles, it is called as territorial waters, and from here for more 12 nautical miles it is called as contiguous zone, or we can take from baseline till 24 nautical miles. So here we have contiguous zone, and from baseline till 200 nautical miles it comes under exclusive economic zone. Beyond that, water is called as high seas. They are also called as international water or global commons. That high sea will not belong to any other country. But till this exclusive economic zone, the country's jurisdiction can apply. And even whatever the economy exploitation they want to do, they can do that. Okay. So according to this UNCLOS, what is the power of Iran? Whenever any country is in war-like situation, if any country it is in war-like situation, that country can allow friendly ships. And next one is, whenever they are allowing any ship, they can go for thorough checks and scrutiny before allowing to pass that ship through its waters. That is the first thing. And second one is, it can stop enemy ships to pass in that area. And this one is, it can also do attack on that enemy ships. In international relations, you have to remember one formula. Friends will be our friends. Friends, enemy will be our enemy. Enemy's enemy will be our friend. Yes. So here issue is going on between Iran and US. Iran versus US. Okay, US is leading which grouping? NATO. What is the full form of NATO? North Atlantic Treaty Organization. When this organization came into existence? During 1960s. World was in this Cold War era. What is this Cold War? There is no physical war, but inside there are not having good relationships. That is called as a Cold War. So before this 1960, in 1945, there was end of World War II. And during this World War, what happened? Lots of losses the countries faced. Loss of property, loss of lives, everything, economic disruption, everything happened. So because of that, in 1960s, they don't want to go with another World War. At that time, world was in this Cold War era. At that time, two power blocks was formed. One is led by USA and another is led by USSR. At that time, US came up with this NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And to counter this NATO, USSR came up with what? Yes, Warsaw Pact. Okay, so there is one condition in NATO. What is that? If any country is indulged in war with any other country, all these members has to support that country. But now what happened? US-Iran war is going on. That means according to this NATO, here there are around 32 countries in NATO. That means all these 32 countries has to support US in this war. Did these countries supported US? Have you heard about other countries supporting this US like Bulgaria, Slovakia, Slovakia like that? No, right? So because of this, US is firing on these NATO members. Okay, this is this article. Are you understanding what is this context? So if you want to understand present thing, you have to know about this UNCLOS area. You have to know about this Cold War issue. You have to know about this NATO. Then only you can understand why Trump gave this statement. Yes, understanding? So here, if these countries not supported this US, whenever this US is in war with Iran, then what happened? What about this entire NATO organization? It is a failure. Can we consider as failure or not? Yes. And next one here is, if these NATO countries has to get oil or if they want to get energy, most of these NATO countries are nothing but European countries, like Western countries. Yes. So actually this Western countries or European countries, they will depend on which countries for the oil? They will depend on Russia, first one. Second one is they depend on this West Asian countries. So actually what is happening with this Russia? US came up with this Russian Sanction Act. Do you know that? Yes. So what does this Russian Sanction Act says? If you are purchasing oil and energy or natural gas from Russia, we will impose up to 500% tariffs. So because of this tariffs, what happened? Many countries, they reduced their import of oil and gas from Russia. Even India did that, right? Okay. Now what is other choice we have? West Asia, for this NATO countries to bring their oil and gas. But what is happening now? These NATO countries are not supporting US in this US-Iran war in this West Asia. So because of this, now these countries which are ally countries of US, if those countries wants to get these tankers or oil from this Strait of Hormuz, do they have safety and security? They also considered as enemy countries only, right? US friendly nations are again enemies to Iran. So now Iran has a right to attack the ships, and US have the right to stop the movement of this NATO country ships in the Strait of Hormuz. So what is the source for them? Where they can get this oil? Now they have only one source is to get oil from US. Are you understanding now? So this is the issue case. So now how can you get a question again from this area? How can you get a question? In which areas you can expect a question in your prelims? Is this a small issue? No, it is a major thing, right? Now tell me, if you want to give a question, where can you give a question? First one here is, can you frame a question on UNCLOS? Already in 2023, UPSC asked question on UNCLOS related to this internal water, territorial water and exclusive economic zone. So this time they can ask about this area. What are the powers for a country in a war? Yes, already UPSC asked this question, so you cannot expect the direct question from that, but you can expect a question from this area, right? So if any country, if it is in a war, what are the powers of that country given according to the UNCLOS? On this you may get question. So if they want to repeat question on this also, they can repeat. That means this year UNCLOS will become very important. Yes. And next one here is last year. Have you seen this 2025 paper? How many of you saw this 2025 UPSC prelims paper? In that they gave question about NATO. What is that question? Anyone? They gave countries. How many countries they gave? Around 6 countries, no? Around 6 countries they gave, and they asked to know which how many of the above countries are part of NATO. That is a question in 2025. That means you need to know 32 countries. Why UPSC gave that question in 2025? Any idea? Why UPSC gave question related to members of NATO? In 2024, one country, 32nd country was added to this NATO. Because of this, in 2025, they gave this question. And now this is in news. Again, you may get other question related to this NATO. That means you have to know 100% details about this NATO. Okay, are you understanding? You have to know about members, you have to know about when it was formed, what are the objectives of this NATO. Okay, everything. So now let us see this article. Now tell me, this article is important from which subject? Where you will be studying about UNCLOS? In geography. Where you will be studying about this NATO? In international relations. And West Asia, everything, oil, etc. Again from your economy point of view, right? Okay, now let us see about NATO. NATO full form is North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and it is Intergovernmental Military Alliance. Please make a note, it is a military alliance. It is not economic organization, or it is not a trade organization. So if UPSC wants to confuse you, it may give statements in this way. NATO is Intergovernmental Economic Organization, Intergovernmental Peace Organization, Intergovernmental Trade Organization. No, it is a military organization. Are you understanding how UPSC can frame the statements? So here, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, it is intergovernmental. What is the meaning of intergovernmental? It is between different governments. Okay, different countries, governments, and it is a military alliance. And it is focusing on promoting peace and security among its members. Okay, and it operates under principle of collective defense. What is the meaning of collective defense? If one country is in danger, other countries has to support this country. That is called as collective defense. And the principle of this NATO here is collective defense principle. And the major objectives of this NATO is, the first one is to provide safety to the member countries against external threats. And this one is, NATO countries has to focus on crisis management using diplomatic and military strategies. And next one is, it will strengthen partnership with other countries also to ensure global stability. And they are focusing on especially military readiness. And one important point that you have to remember here is, if any country had been attacked by any other country, all these countries will believe that that attack happened on us and they have to collectively retaliate that country. Okay. See this NATO country list, there are 32 countries as of now, and there are founding members, I think 1, 2, 3. 12 are founding members. Okay, so the founding members of this NATO, that means whenever this NATO was formed, these countries are part of that NATO. Try to remember, I don't know how can you remember, but at least if you see that names, you will be having some idea. At least you can eliminate some countries. Belgium, Canada, Denmark, France, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, UK, US. So these countries are founding members. And later on, other countries had joined this NATO. Greece, Turkey, Germany, Spain, Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, Bulgaria, Estonia. Actually, in examination, they gave Bulgaria, Estonia. Next one is Latvia, Lithuania, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Albania, Croatia. And the recent countries which were added were, first one is Montenegro in 2017, North Macedonia in 2020, Finland in 2023, Sweden in 2024. Because of the Sweden which got this NATO member status in 2024, in 2025 they gave this question. Are you understanding here? Okay. And they also gave the Sweden also. Sweden they gave, Bulgaria, Estonia they gave, and I can't remember other 6. And the answer is only 4. Okay. You see this next article, read out the title guys. Most parts of India to see more heat wave days, says IMD. The keywords are, first one is heat waves, second one is IMD. Okay, now you guys tell me what is a meaning of heat wave. Have you heard this word heat wave? What is the meaning of this heat wave? In general, what do you do? Okay, increased temperature in simple. Increased temperature, normally we are going to have summer, and this time we are going to expect more temperature. So now you guys tell me, based on your knowledge, why there is increased temperature? Why IMD is saying that we are going to have more heat waves this year? Yeah, go global warming. Next. Global warming is one reason. Next. Come on, you can do it. What are the major reasons why there is increasing of temperature? Industrial pollution is increasing, global warming. Next. Concretization, okay. Deforestation, next. Next, Govind. El Nino, yes, this time we are going to have El Nino. Very important concept. Yes, El Nino, next. Come on, think. Insolation will not change. Every time we will be getting same insolation from sun. Next. Okay, now let us see this article. So this year we are going to have more heat wave days. Who says this? IMD is saying that. So how can you get a question here is, in 2 ways you can get a question. One is from organization, one is from geographical concept. Okay. So here they may give question related to heat wave. In this also you can get different patterns. First one is, consider the following statements, and they'll give you statements and they may ask you how many of correct or which are correct. That is very simple. And nowadays questions are complicating in UPSC. Do you know? So we have statement 1 and we have statement 2, and they're asking that whether this statements both are correct, whether the second statement is explaining or not. So this kind of question you may get. They'll give you a definition of heat wave, and they'll give you next statement, and they may ask you like whether the second statement is explaining first statement or not. And if they want to further complicate the question, what they'll do? They'll give 3 statements. Have you seen this pattern of question in this UPSC 2025? I think 5 to 6 questions were this pattern. And this time in 2026, you will get at least minimum 12 questions on this pattern. Remember this. The students who are writing this 2026, you will get minimum 12 questions on this pattern. They'll give you statement 1, statement 2 and statement 3. Always the statement 1 is right in this. And they'll ask you, in these 2 statements, one is right, that is explaining the statement 1. Or else they'll give you both the statements are explaining statement 1. And in the next options, either statement 1 is wrong or both are wrong. So like that you will be getting options. So check once PYQ of 2025, especially this pattern of question. Okay, 3 statements, and they'll ask you like 2 statements are explaining, only one of the statement is explaining, one is wrong, 2 are wrong, like that. So this time you may get for sure 12 minimum questions. So UPSC will always go for trial and testing. So it will not change entirely the pattern of prelims paper by the next year. So they'll give some trial in this year paper, like they'll give 3 to 4 questions this year, and next year that number of questions will significantly rise. And this year you may also get more assertion based reasoning questions also. Actually, if you see this PYQs before 1990s, we used to have this assertion and reasoning based questions. But after that, they stopped giving these questions. And from last 2 years onwards, they again started giving these questions. So this in this 2026 also, you can get assertion and reasoning based question. So here from this heat wave also, you may get assertion and reasoning based question. Okay. So there are 3 types of formats of UPSC questions that you can expect from this heat waves. Okay, next one here is IMD. What is the full form of IMD? Indian Meteorological Department. So you may get simply statements based question. Consider the following statements regarding IMD, and they'll give you 2 to 3. They may ask you how many are correct or which are correct. And second one is they may give you pair based question. Like IMD, we have different organizations, right? We have IMD, we have World Economic Forum, we have OECD. Okay, like that they'll give some organizations, and they may give you year when they formed, and they'll give you what is the aim, like that. So like that they may give you pair based question also related to this IMD. Okay, you have to be thorough and you have to be ready to fight with any other question which comes in examination. Okay, now let us see this article. This article is saying that North India is likely to experience cooler than normal summer this time. But other parts of our country except this North India, they are going to face more and more heat waves. Who said this? IMD. Okay, let us see some facts regarding this IMD and as well as heat waves, and later on let us see what are the causes and what is the impact. So what is IMD? Indian Meteorological Department, formed in year 1875. That means before we got independence itself, way before we got independence, this IMD was formed. Okay, and it is our national meteorological service. It provides our meteorological service in our country, and it is principal government agency, and it will be dealing with meteorology and as well as related subjects of this meteorology. And please make a note, it works under Ministry of Earth Sciences. And already UPSC asked question related to this IMD in statement based. There they changed this ministry. So this IMD works under Ministry of Earth Sciences. Very, very important point. And headquarters located in New Delhi. And it also has 6 regional specialized meteorological centers. Okay, what are its roles and responsibilities? First one is it has to deliver information regarding the weather. To whom? For example, agriculture people, irrigation related things, shipping, aviation, offshore exploration, etc. Where there is a very high chance of importance of weather is required to continue that kind of services. For that, here meteorological department has to give information. And next one here is they have to warn against any severe weather phenomena. Example, if there is any cyclone which is formed in this Bay of Bengal or Arabian Sea, especially coastal states will be getting affected. So these coastal states need to get warning signals or early warning. And next one is if there is any kind of nor'westers, dust storms, heavy rains, snow, cold or heat waves, it has to give this alerts so that we can try to reduce loss of life and as well as loss of property. And next one here is they have to give meteorological statistics. That means after every year they have to give even statistic for agriculture, water resource management, industries and as well as oil exploration. And even they have to promote research in meteorology and as well as some other allied disciplines. And if you see this heat waves are nothing but the prolonged period of excessive heat. Okay, it will be having obviously adverse impact on humans, environment and ecology. And according to IMD, it gave a definition in plain areas, if there is temperature more than 40 degrees centigrade, please make a note, in plain areas if it is more than 40 degrees centigrade, in coastal areas if it is more than 37 degrees centigrade, and in hilly areas if it is more than 30 degrees centigrade, then that is called as heat wave. Okay, according to IMD, definition of heat wave is in plain areas if temperature is more than 40 degrees centigrade, in coastal areas 37 degrees centigrade or more, and in hilly areas if it is more than 30 degrees centigrade, it is considered as heat wave. Then now you guys tell me why this variation. Geography started, insolation topic completed, insolation, clouds, rainfall. Tell me now why this kind of variation compared to that of plains, coast and hilly areas. Why? Is that right? Will you accept this? Now tell me, as UPSC aspirants, why this is accepted by you? Why plains should be having more than 40 degrees centigrade? Why coast should have more than 35? Why hills should have more than 30 degrees centigrade? What is the reason? Do we have any reason behind it? What is that reason? Are you understanding my question? Tell me. Online students, tell me in the comment box. Geography is going on, guys. You have to answer this. Temperature only. Yes, continental. Not exactly. Kiran. Okay, in coastal area, marine effect. Okay, next. Yes, in increasing of height, decreasing of temperature accepted in hilly areas. What about plains then? Come on, come on. You can do it. Temperature is more in the plain areas. Okay. So what happens in these hilly areas is if you're moving from Earth's surface up, what happens? Obviously temperature decreases. If you're keeping 40 degrees in hilly areas, it is not right. Have you heard this word thermal anomaly? Yes? Come on, tell me, what is this thermal anomaly? When did sir said about this thermal anomaly concept? 3 days back. Come on, you all should have to answer this question. What is thermal anomaly? Am I asking anything irrelevant? No, right? Which is there in your subject only I am asking. Now tell me what is this meaning of thermal anomaly? Kranti. Govind. 3 days ago only. You only said. Abhigna. Decrease or increase in normal temperature in the same latitude, right? That is called as thermal anomaly. So here if you are having this plains, okay, let us take this. This is latitude. So here we have desert, here we have plateau, here we have a hill and here we have normal plains. So in desert, normally temperature will be very high, very high during summer season. And in this plateau and hills, comparatively less because of increasing of height. On plains again, we will be having somewhat all change in temperature. So on a single latitude, if we can see this difference in this temperature, that is called as thermal anomaly. Okay, now you guys, you have to make a note. So heat wave is nothing but whenever there is change of temperature around 4.5 to 6 degrees centigrade. So normally when we call this heat wave is normally, for example, if you take Hyderabad temperature, what is average temperature of Hyderabad normally now? We are in month of March. Oh sorry, April. What will be the temperature? 30? 30? Okay, 37. Let us take this 37 is a normal temperature. Okay, now in the month of April, today is April 1st. So if there is increased temperature by 6 degrees centigrade, then we can call it as heat wave. Are you understanding? So normally in the month of May, the temperature will go beyond 45 degrees in Hyderabad. Okay, so normally the temperature should be like 37 or 40 or 41 in that May month, but it will exceed 47, 48 also. That condition is called as heat wave. And severe heat wave is nothing but whenever there is increase of more than 6.4 degrees centigrade of temperature, then that condition is called as severe heat wave. On these 2 points, UPSC can ask a question, can make a statement. Okay. Now tell me guys, what are the factors? The first one is because of atmospheric pressure. You know about this low pressure, you know about this high pressure. Okay, whenever we are having low pressure, then what happens? Air will be getting heated, it will go up, it will form clouds. If the clouds cause rainfall, what about temperature? Decreases. If there is no rainfall, then what happens? Temperature will be further increased. That means if we have high atmospheric pressure, are you understanding? I am teaching you geography. Okay, if we have low pressure, when this low pressure is formed, whenever there is high temperature, then what happen? Air and water which is present will be getting heated up, it will become light and it will move upwards. After reaching certain height, then what happen? It will become cool, it will form clouds, and if this cloud is filled with water, then what happen? It cannot bear that weight of water droplets and that will be coming down because of influence of gravity. This is called as precipitation or rainfall. If rainfall happens, means what happens? Obviously we can reduce this temperature of that area. Will feel very cool like that, yes. So if we have high pressure, what happens? High pressure means we have somewhat cool temperature. If we have high temperature, high pressure, what happen? We have descending winds, not ascending winds. There will be no formation of clouds. If you are having high pressure, then what happen? There will be more and more temperature we can see at the ground level. That is the first thing which mainly said here. High atmospheric pressure system, that will leads to more and more heat waves because of no formation of clouds. Next one is climate variability. Govind said, yes, this year we are going to have El Nino. Because of this El Nino, there will be obviously increased temperature. So in your monsoon chapter in climatology, you will be coming across what is La Nina and what is El Nino. So La Nina is good for India. It will be bringing good rainfall. El Nino will disturb the rainfall. So if you are not getting proper rainfall, obviously it will be affecting temperature, right? And this one is drought and dry conditions. If you are having prolonged periods of drought and as well as lack of precipitation, what happens? That will reduce the overall moisture in the soil also. If you are not getting rains for years together, if you are having drought, what happens? Whatever the soil, if you take the soil here, that will become very dry. There will be no moisture content in that. That will absorb more heat. Okay, so that will also lead to more temperature. And whenever there are changes in the wind patterns, wind started, planetary winds, local winds. No, okay. So here, as you all know that, if you take winds, always winds will move from high pressure area to low pressure area. It is one theory according to this pressure gradient force. According to pressure gradient force, always winds move from high pressure to low pressure area. Okay, so because of this, what happens? This high pressure area, whatever the winds are there, they are like dry winds. They will not carry any moisture, right? So because of this, if winds are moving from here to here, then what happens? Obviously, they will not cause any clouds. So like that, what happens? There will be again rising of temperature. And even we have geography and topography. If we have landlocked areas, again what happens? There is no effect of marine. So if there is no marine effect, what happens? Again there will be high temperature. So normally whenever we are having landlocked countries, in that countries there will be more temperature. Okay, even we have human induced factors, like we are using vehicles, we are increasing our production by using industries, and we are releasing lots and lots of pollution to atmosphere. That will lead to global warming. That is the next reason. And next one is urban heat island effect. What is this urban heat island effect? Actually, it is a main question. What is urban heat island? In urban areas, we are going for more and more use of concrete surfaces. Like we are having cement roads, we are having big buildings. What they'll do, and even whatever the roads we have, we are using, or we are laying that roads by using asphalt. Do you know this asphalt? And it is also a previous year's question in prelims. They are nothing but black color roads that we can see. They are called as dambar roads in Telugu. I don't know what it is called. So actually we use normally asphalt there. So because of this, what happened, as you all know, that black color bodies will absorb more and more heat. Yes. So because of this, what happens? Whenever we are going for concretization, increasing of use of this kind of asphalt on these roads, and increasing of big buildings, and we are going for deforestation, and we want to increase only this kind of construction sites, everything, that will lead to increasing of automatically the heat. That is called as urban heat island. So these are the major causes. Now you guys tell me, what are the impacts of this heat waves? Is this heat waves good or bad? Okay, bad. How they are bad and why they are bad? Come on, tell me fast. Impacts of heat waves. You may get a question. More dehydration, impact on health, and as well as animal husbandry. Next. Next. How it causes loss to animal husbandry? How it causes impact? I think last year or before last year, we had loss of some lakhs. Why? Because we will be running a poultry farm. We have one poultry farm, and that we used to have like 7,000 to 8,000 small chicks. So last time what happened, because of this summer, we will be not having even power supply properly in rural areas. Actually, our labor, they forget to fill this water tanks early, and next day morning there was no power till 12 or like 12:30 p.m. from morning onwards. Within half an hour or 1 hour, half of this, more than half, 75% of these chicks died within span of seconds. Whenever we are taking one hen to make them to drink water, by that time again 2 to 3 hens they died. So what happens here is, if there is no water or if there is more heat, obviously this hens and the poultry industries will be getting huge losses, and we face it that actually, and we literally, we don't know like what to do in that situation. Okay, so here, tell me guys, first one is animal husbandry will be getting impacted, and next one is there will be lots of animals will be died even in the forest areas because of lack of water. And next agricultural productivity, what happens? Agricultural productivity will be decreased, right, because of heat. Next, humans also affected, I said. Next, that's what. Next, and there will be increased demand for electricity. Yes or no? Will we sit under fans? We need AC, we need coolers. So what happens? That will leads to increased carbon dioxide emissions also. Next. Okay, say this next article guys. What can you identify here? Boats. Boats are decorated with balloons. Yes. Festival. Next. Can you see anything different in that? Huh? Grass. Okay, see this image. This is very important and you may expect question related to this year. This is about houseboats. Houseboats seen on Vemmanad Lake in Kerala as part of water awareness program, and that water awareness program is called as SWEEP. Please make a note, SWEEP, SWEEP. SWEEP organized by Election Commission. Okay, so here you have to see 2 to 3 important things. First one is Vemmanad Lake. This year Vemmanad Lake is seen highly in news because of increased pollution in this Vemmanad Lake. From wetlands point of view, do you know this wetlands, Ramsar sites? From that point of view, from environment, you can expect a question on Vemmanad Lake. And next one here is, this time we are going to have elections in which states? Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Assam, West Bengal, and one UT, Puducherry, right? Okay, the problem in our elections is there is very low voter turnout. What is the average voter turnout in India? 62 max, 67 or 69 max. That means if 100 people are there in that area, that means only 67 or 68 they are coming and they are casting their vote. So is that good for a democratic country? Democracy means it is for the people, by the people, of the people. If people are not coming and electing their representatives, is that good? What is the point of conducting these elections then? So for that reason, government wants to increase voter turnout. For that, they are organizing this scheme or program called as SWEEP. And this came up by Election Commission of India itself. Okay? And this time Election Commission is seen highly in news because of SIR and because of CEC removal process in Parliament. So here this time, before going to examination, in your Lakshmikant or in our material, this chapter is there, Election Commission of India, appointment process, removal process, what is eligibility criteria, what is the removal process, and what are the reforms came up by Election Commission of India, because it is one of the reform. Okay, you have to see what exactly the reforms, and you have to know about functions of Election Commission of India, and you have to clearly know about SIR and other ballot system like that. Okay, electoral roll system, what is difference between this SIR, everything you have to say. Just revise your current affairs notes, that is more than enough. Okay, so don't leave this topic at all. 100% you may get a question, 100%. Okay, now let us see what is the SWEEP is about. Okay, the full form of the SWEEP is the Systematic Voters Education and Electoral Participation Program. Systematic Voter Education and Electoral Participation Program is called as SWEEP. And you have to remember, it is an initiative of Election Commission of India. So if UPSC wants to change the statement, they will give that SWEEP is a program by Ministry of Rural Development, Ministry of Science and Technology, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, they may give. But it is the program of Election Commission of India. And they want to promote greater electoral participation through comprehensive voter education. If voters know about what is their role, why elections, why they have to participate, then only they will participate more and more. And the important vision of this program is universal and enlightened participation of citizens in elections and democracy. An important goal is to empower every citizen to register as a voter and to cast their vote at every elections. Okay, that is the main objective. Okay, and next one here is the important aim is to increase turnout to at least 75% in Lok Sabha elections. Okay, and what they'll do here is they will go for conducting of campaigns. They will use media, they will use even social media to reach the voters, and they will go for customized linguistic and as well as culturally different regions. They will target those and they want to increase this voter turnout. And next one is they will also use brochures, flyers, posters, and even advertisements in this TV and as well as radios also, so that they will reach the people. And even they will organize some interactive sessions, like they will organize workshops, seminars, road shows, etc. And they will be also conduct some culture activities. So they were conducting some culture activities in Kerala because of elections ahead to improve voter turnout there. Okay, and they will also go with partnership with NGOs, some education institutions, so that they can reach people more, and they will focus on some special groups like youth, women and marginalized section of society, so that they will be participating in these elections. Okay, so these are the some things that you have to remember regarding the sweep. See this topic, guys, read out the title. Earth's orbit or filling up because governance hasn't kept pace. What is this article talking about? Read the title and tell me. What do you understand by this? Earth orbits or filling up means? Yes, there is increasing of space debris. Why there is increasing of space debris? Tell me first of all, how many orbits we have? This is Earth. Around this we have low Earth orbit. Above this we have medium Earth orbit. Above this we have high Earth orbit. So which launch vehicles will use to launch satellites to this high Earth orbit? GSLV. For low Earth orbit and sun synchronous orbit we have PSLV, right? So that is the thing that you know. So what is happening here is the number of satellites launched in this low Earth orbit is increasing day by day. And actually what is the thing here is, if you are launching any satellite, that will be having how much time of validity, like 3 years or like 5 years, not more than like 5 years, right? So what happens, are we bringing back those unwanted satellites back to Earth? No one is bothering about that, right? Then what happens here, there is increasing of debris day by day. And even whenever we are launching satellites, are we launching single satellite? We are launching multiple, and even India launched 32 satellites in a single go. So if how many countries are there across the world? 196, 192, next 190. Okay, if all these countries are launching multiple satellites into this orbits within 5 years, then what happened? Do we get any space to launch any other new satellite? No, that is this article which is talking about. Okay, if you see this title, it's saying that Earth's orbit or filling up because governance hasn't kept pace. So especially this article is bothering about increasing of space debris in this low Earth orbit. Okay, so here this article is saying that Earth's orbital environment has become crowded, fragile and vulnerable, threatened by what is today evidently a failure of governance. So here whatever the orbits which are present around the Earth also becoming like crowded, becoming fragile, and it is going to be damage our new satellites also. So this article is saying that it is the failure of governance system that we have. Okay, so why this article is in news? Because normally if you are launching any satellites, after completion of its time period also, it will be moving in that orbit only. Even if it is dysfunctional also, we are not bringing that back. So because of this, what happens here is, even if there is a small debris, even that debris is smaller than a coin, you know this 1 rupee coin, 50 NP, 5 rupees, 10 rupees coin, even whatever the debris which is there in that orbit, if it is less than even the size of a coin, it will travel with orbital velocity, and whenever it is moving, it can, if that coin debris is hitting any satellite, which is a new one, which is working, it can blast. So if it is blasting, what happened? That will lead to further more increasing of debris, and that small pieces can hit another orbit, another satellites which are there in this orbit. So because of this, what happened? If we are losing any satellite, means we can lose our navigation system, we can lose our telecommunications, and for example, if that falls onto the Earth's surface, then it will be a great damage. Do you know this Skylab? Skylab. No idea of Skylab. It is a previous question. Skylab came from this orbit and it fall in Indian Ocean region. At that time, they believed that it will fall in India only. Do you know the story of the Skylab? So if you have talked to your grandparents, they might be saying about the Skylab story. At that time, what happened was there was a rumor that the Skylab will come and falls on India only. So because of this India will be getting smashed. At that time, whoever the richer people were there, they spent a lot of money. Whatever the money they have, they spent rigorously. They gave distributing of money, whatever the goats or there they cutted and they had feast like that. But finally, this Skylab came and it fall in Indian Ocean region. It didn't fall on directly on India. So because of this, at that time, rich become poor and poor become rich at that time. So you can ask your grandparents about the Skylab. They will be telling. Actually, my grandfather used to tell this to me. I don't know whether you came across this or not. Okay, and that is also one previous question. The question was, Skylab came and fell in which of the following ocean? That is in Indian Ocean only. Indian Ocean is very important for India, right? Okay, see once about Skylab. So here this article is saying that whatever the treaties we have, we are not following that treaties effectively. So one treaty which is talking about the space governance is Outer Space Treaty. You have to know this. One important treaty which is governing our space is Outer Space Treaty, and you may get question on this. The question will be in this way, like consider the following statements regarding Outer Space Treaty, and they may give you statements. Okay, we came up with this treaty in year 1967, guys, and it is an international law, and this law will regulate countries' exploration and use of outer space, and they include not only space but even moon and even other celestial bodies. What are the celestial bodies? Have you came across the celestial bodies? Examples of celestial bodies? Star, sun. Next, asteroids, comets. Okay. So here, if you see this outer space treaty, it says that it was formed during the period of intense rivalry between US and as well as Soviet Union. So if you see this year, it is 1967. During this 1960s, I said world was under Cold War. So during this rivalry period between US and USSR, we came up with this. And there was a space race between US and as well as USSR during this time. Especially in 1957, Soviet launched different satellites into atmosphere, and in retaliation, US also launched a lot. So because of this rivalry between US and as well as USSR in that space, they came up with this Outer Space Treaty in 1967. And if you see what are the highlights of this treaty is, we have to use space and as well as celestial bodies for only peaceful purpose. We should not go for arms race in space. And second point here is they are going to prevent deployment of nuclear or other weapons of mass destruction in orbit. We should not keep any weapons of nuclear or mass destructions on this orbit. That is second point. And third one here is they are also preventing claiming ownership of outer space or celestial bodies. So now nowadays you are getting some articles like on this moon, this so and so cent of land belongs to that country, this country. Have you came up this kind of images and reels? But according to this Outer Space Treaty, it is preventing any government from ownership of outer space or any celestial body, because space is a global common. It is for every country. It is not belonging to that US, or it is not belonging to that India or USSR like that. And they also said that no government have exclusive rights to explore or use a particular region in space. Anyone can explore any region, that too for peaceful process. And this one is USA was the first country to reach on the moon, but they cannot declare their authority over moon. If India reached that so and so planet or so and so comet, can we declare that that is ours? No, we cannot declare that is ours. And countries are accountable for both governmental and non-governmental actions that are liable for any damage. If they are causing any damage by their launches to the space, it may be government, it may be private. Both are accountable. And next one is, it requires government to assist astronauts in trouble regardless of nationality. Recently, Sunitha Williams, you know about the case. So, one more person also had been in trouble to get back. So, for that, other countries can also help. Okay, it is not like only the country to which that astronauts belong has to help like that. It is clearly written in this Outer Space Treaty. So, because of that also you may get a question regarding this Outer Space Treaty. And next one is, it will also focus on conserving of space ecosystems, and we have to avoid operations that could contaminate celestial bodies or Earth's biosphere. And even in this Outer Space Treaty, we have to control this space debris also. Clear? And see this next article, guys. Unexpected surge. So in yesterday's class we discussed about index of industrial production, right? So this article is saying that core industries will contribute how much percent? 40% in our index of industrial production. And this article is saying that index of industrial production in month of February is 5.2%, and from this core industries only 2.3% of contribution is there from this core industries to this index of industrial production. And here this article is saying that apart from this core industries, other industries did well, or they are performing very good in this manufacturing sector, but they had been sidelined. That is about this article. Clear? Simple point, only one point that you have to focus here. And see this next article, guys. Counting people is not counting disaster risk. What is this article talking about? What is the meaning of this? Counting people is not counting disaster risk. I will simplify this just with one diagram. So, which is the largest state? UP. Which state is having largest population? UP. Okay. So, here there is state 1, which is largest. For example, we can take in size. And next one is even population number is also high. And I am taking state 2, and this state 2 is smaller compared to this state 1, and even population is also less. Okay, so this is the one condition. One condition is state size is big and population is high, and state 2 is small in size and even population is less. Okay, remember this condition. And second one is this state is located in center. For example, let us take this as MP. MP is in the center, right? So what about the disasters in MP? Do we have any disasters? It comes under zone 2 of earthquake, no earthquakes here. And even do we have any threat of cyclones? If we have any threat, that will be like drought or any heat wave. Apart from that, we can't see any earthquake or do we get landslides in this area? No. Do we get any storm surges because of this cyclones in Bay of Bengal in this? No, for sure. In the least possibility, what is that? It can hit drought or heat wave. That's it, not more than that. If you take a small state, it is like coastal state or it is Himalayan state. It is having the threat of disasters. Okay, let us take it as a Himalayan state. It is having a disaster like we can expect avalanches. Recently we discussed about avalanche in Himachal Pradesh, right? And even landslides can also happen, and even floods can also happen. And even in these states we have forest fires. Recently we discussed, right? Forest fires. So here population is less. If there is a finance commission, what is finance commission? What it does? Finance commission is a constitutional body under which article? Yes, article 280. What it will do? Whatever the tax is collected by the state, it will say how much amount should be shared with the states. That is called as tax devolution. Yes or no? Finance commission class is done for you, right? That is called as tax devolution. Okay, so if finance commission is giving more funds for this state 1 if it is giving less for this state 2. Is that right? No? Will you accept it or not? So if this finance commission give more amount of funds just based on criteria, population is more, despite of low disasters in that state, is that right? Who needs more funds? State 1 or state 2? State 2 needs funds, but it is allocating more funds to this state 1. That is about this article. Are you understanding the title? Now read out this title once again. Counting people, not counting disaster risk. Understood? So here the state is having like more population, they are getting more funds for management of disaster compared to that of disaster risk more states. Okay, so that is about this criticism of sharing of funds which is allocated by Finance Commission. Understood the concept? Now let us see in detail. So here this time for every 5 years this Finance Commission will be constituted. Now this year we have 16th Finance Commission. So you may expect question related to this basic facts of Finance Commission. You have to know that. Okay, first let us see the basics of Finance Commission. Let us go to this disaster related funds. Okay. If you see this Finance Commission, it is a constitutional body under Article 280. You have to remember this, no choice. And it will be formed by President of India once in every 5 years. For every 5 years, we will be having this Finance Commission. And if you see composition, we have 1 chairman and 4 members who are expertise in this finance, economics or public administration. What is the core function? It will focus on net tax devolution. So what are the taxes collected by the center? It has to share with the states. And what is the percentage? And it is 2025 question. In 2025, they gave question on Finance Commission and they said that 45% of recommendation of 15th Finance Commission. It is not 45, it is 41 only. Okay. So in 15th Finance Commission recommendation is also 41 and even the 16th Finance Commission also recommended 41% of tax devolution. Okay, what are the taxes covered here? Which taxes will be shared? Income tax, GST, other central taxes. But what about this cess and surcharge? Will be shared or not? Very good. Cess and surcharge will be shared or not? I said article related to that also. Cess and surcharge is not shared by central government with state government. That will be kept with only central government. Okay, next one here is they will also tell about grants in aid. They will also suggest measures how to strengthen the finances of panchayats and municipalities. And they will also advise on expenditure control, debt, fiscal reforms, everything. I think 2 days ago I asked question on this, which are added and which are removed and for which there is increased contribution. To make that clear, I came up with this image. So here it is showing about the criteria on which Finance Commission will be recommending grants to states. And it is 15th Finance Commission recommendations, it is 16th Finance Commission recommendations. In 16th Finance Commission, one thing is added, that is contribution to GDP. Contribution to GDP is not there in 15th, but in 16th we have. On this you may get a possible question. And next one here is, in these 3 areas there is decreased percentage. Can you see this? Earlier it is 45, now it is 42.5, 12.5 to 10, 15 to 10. On this you may get a question, in which of the following criteria there is reduction? That is income distance, demographic performance and area. But which is stable? Forest is stable, 10-10. And which is reduced here? Tax and physical efforts. Okay. So on this you can get a question. And even they can give a question in this way. Recently 16th Finance Commission gave the recommendations related to tax devolution. Which of the following are criteria? What are the criteria? Income distance, population, demographic performance, area, forest, tax. It is not there. Tax and physical efforts is not there here. Next one is contribution to GDP. Okay, this is about disaster management grants. They are allowing this much amount, 2,04,401 crores for state disaster relief and management funds. And here the cost sharing is 90:10 for northeastern and Himalayan states and 75:25% for states. Okay. The major problem here is population dominates. The states which are having more population, they are getting more funds rather than disaster risk. Okay, and it penalizes the success. States with higher income are getting again lower, especially the states like Kerala are getting very low. And next one is biggest losers in share, especially Odisha, Jharkhand, they are losing more. Okay, that is the thing, guys, nothing more than that. And say this practice question. Are you understanding this? Have you understood this article? More population, more funds. So because of this, the states which are having low population, even though if they are having disaster risk, they are getting less funds. Okay, say this question. Consider the following statements regarding Finance Commission. It is a constitutional body constituted under Article 280 of Constitution. Second one is it is constituted every 10 years by President. Third one, it recommends the distribution of tax revenues between union and states. Fourth one is its recommendations are binding on the government. Which of the statements above are correct? 1 and 3. As it is every 5 years. And recommendations are just advisory. If you see any body, whatever the recommendations are giving, if we like it, then only we'll take that, or else we'll not take that. That means advisory. Only advisory in nature, it is not binding. So we can eliminate these two statements. Answer is A, 1 and 3. Are you understanding? And say this next question. Sweep. First one is it is a flagship program of Election Commission of India. Its aim is to increase voter awareness and participation. It focuses on only urban areas. It includes components like information, motivation, facilitation. Answer 1, 2 and 4. It will focus on rural areas also. How can we discriminate voters? They are rural areas or urban areas, we cannot, right? Every person has right to vote. That is given in Article 326, adult franchise. There should be no discrimination based on the area where they are coming from, right? So we can eliminate this. Answer is 1, 2 and 4. That's all, guys. By this I'm concluding. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. And if you like this class, please hit the like button and please do share this class to your friends. And if you have not yet been subscribed to Rathod Science Academy, please do subscribe so that you will be getting lots of insights regarding current affairs, guys. And I wish you all the best. Thank you so much.